me switch. There we go. Okay. And if anyone I saw Tian was here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope everyone's doing well this Friday. I know a lot of people that I see here are off. We're at AHK Con. That was awesome. Oh, nice to be here. Huh. Autoglass booking bot. Hi. Well, no. Often this is we just help people. So it depends on what kind of questions people ask, right? Often it's simple stuff, hotstrings, hotkeys. Sometimes it's more complex. But usually the good part is it's troubleshooting stuff. And that's where a lot of people, especially new, can use help learning how to troubleshoot. I don't think Isaias is going to be joining us today. He's got some work being done at his house. But hopefully it'll all be better. And then he'll have a battery backup is what we're working on anyway. So who has a question? Anyone got anything they're working on? Something they want to share? Something they're stuck on? Want advice on? Excuse me. Who here attended the AHK Con? And what'd you think? It's kind of difficult planning an event when you're not sure who's going to be there and nothing's paid and you're doing not entirely on your own, but a lot of it on your own. Okay. What's your question? Or you want to join Zoom? Do you have the link for Zoom? It's at the very top of this, or the URL over my head here. I should look. I'm like, oh, can I get it? You can either just post the question here or join Zoom and then ask your question. Depending on the complexity, sometimes it's easier to join Zoom and ask. Just remember, if you share your screen, keep it stuff that's not privileged. Sorry, grab some coffee. Okay, still nothing. I assume the Autoglass booking bot, which is, I won't say his name in case he cares, but he's exchanged some emails with me, so I know who he is. But yeah. Where's Guy when you need him, huh? Some questions. And I think John is also not going to be here today. All right, Tom, let me ping Tom, see if he's going to be around. And let me turn off the annoying thing that keeps going up on my screen. Cool. You guys like my axe? In the background there. I don't do a lot of funny stuff to me on the YouTube channel, but I like to joke around a lot. And when I went to buy it, I was gonna ask the person, I'm curious, is this the right size of an axe for slaughtering a medium-sized family? And I thought, maybe they're not gonna find it funny, so I chose not to ask that. Oh, good, we got a class question here. Look at this. So, right now you're doing this in computer science. So yeah, and I already replied to your comment. But basically, you're looking for a way to. So AutoHotkey, a lot of people get confused in this, right? AutoHotkey is a desktop type, automation stuff. It's not stuff that's run on a server, although there is a server built in AutoHotkey that you can use. But it's run for, it's using to automate desktop Windows computers. And it sounds like, hey Mage, it sounds like you want to have something always running. And so A is, which, I think you mentioned here, is you could have your computer or preferably like a laptop that most most things that they're pretty newer version of Windows are very efficient as far as, like, I leave mine on all the time and it doesn't draw, even though it's got a lot of hard drives, a lot of other stuff. It doesn't draw a lot of power when it's not in use, right? Windows is pretty good at lowering the power usage. Laptops especially are really good at that. They can be sitting in the background and using very little bit. But for whatever reason, maybe that's not an option for you. Yes, you can get something like a Windows Cloud, the AWS type stuff from Amazon or other services. I haven't used them. I know a couple people who have done stuff like that. I just honestly, I would, if I'm going to have something I need to have always running, I would rethink what I'm doing and probably use a different language like Python or something I could put on a server and not have to have a Windows environment that then you're still hoping that you can programmatically interact with things all the time, because chances are, and I don't know what you're doing, but chances are you're doing something that really you should be using something that's more appropriate to a server than a Windows environment. But I don't know until we understand what you're actually doing. Hope that helps. Yeah, and then yeah, no problem about the axe is definitely for troublesome people or whatever. I'm sorry, yeah, cool. Anyone else experiencing buffering? Let's hope not. I think my connection is solid, but yeah, ever since we switched to fiber, our speed here is blindingly fast. I went from less than 1 meg per second upload to like 500 upload. It's insane, and the download is like 600 per second. It's pretty awesome. I need to move this chat over here, and then somehow this is why, by the way, in those of you who attended HKCon, no, we didn't live stream it, and it's hard to watch multiple chats and answer questions and do this. This is why usually when Isaias or Tom are here, I'll watch the chat a lot and then let them field the questions, depending on the topic, because it's just they're not all on one spot. And I've thought about using, so we could use the YouTube API. They have a YouTube chat API. We could get that, and because I think Zoom has an API, you have to be a paying customer in order to get the API for the chat, I think, but I have a paid account, and we could make a tool to integrate the two. But, it's a fair amount of work. So, let's see. I have to watch reply. Cool. So, does anyone else have any questions? Nice. Yeah, but what's your upload? That's what some places, fiber is the only one I'm aware of that's really good at both, right? But most other things are really good at the download, and the upload isn't great. Anyway, so let's see. The other day we were solving a problem for a client, and he was trying to use a Stream Deck. By the way, did you know Stream Deck actually has an app, so you can connect your phone and use it like a Stream Deck. There's a charge, it's like $2.99 a month. You get a month for free. But for me, comparing buying a Stream Deck at, let's say, $150 over just using my phone, like, it's a no-brainer. Do you know if anyone has managed to automate Resolve via directly HK like you did? No, I don't know, but I know several people who have been doing stuff with Resolve. One particularly a lot. And he uses both the ACC library and it was one of the reasons why we made some of our UIA automation videos. We had found his channel where he does stuff. He actually creates a whole extra keyboard with buttons for automating Resolve, and he was using the ACC approach. And it was right around that time when we learned about the UIA automation, the new library that Descolato had created, and so we demonstrated how you can access it with the UIA library, and man, it's much better than the ACC approach. It's still a little tricky, right? Just like we had the problem with Skype being you're not always connecting to the right window, but yeah, I would definitely look at the UIA approach, and maybe there is a different one, right? But I haven't tried with anything else. But the UIA does seem to be very good at peeking inside it. We've played with it with Zoom. Zoom was also one of those where we went to connect to it, but the main window actually had other windows that weren't children of it, and so we had to kind of navigate, figure out where we're going. I was just thinking that would be kind of ironic is to have a button to press to make it look like it's buffering. That would really confuse people. Yeah, that's what I was. Let's go. That's what I was talking about. We did some testing with it. I was going to make an easy tool for interacting with it, and it was just trickier than we thought. And that was where, thankfully, Descolado walked us through some stuff that he had learned, and it helped. But it was just a bit confusing. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot you could do with it, and of course, Zoom has built-in hotkeys, but you can control it. It's just a little tricky, which is the bummer about using the UIA approach, is it's not simple. You know, it's not like just sending controls or COM. COM to me is very straightforward. Yeah, yeah, it's a little hard, but you can't. But the point is, and it's a really important thing to take into account. One is, are you trying to control something on your computer just for yourself? Then you know what? Maybe you use a different approach, right? Maybe you use an image search, or even tabbing or something, or activating windows. Yeah, no, I agree. Zoom, and they're very weird in how they set them up, and you can't change them. I hope someday they fix that. But if you're going to be creating tools to give to other people, that's where UIA will be a great solution, because it'll be much more reliable. Cool. Yeah, Autoglass. Okay, thanks for the email, but it's still. I don't. No one here mentioned they're having problems with buffering, and I don't see any. I'm actually watching my own live stream, so, and it's pretty smooth and about a 20-second delay. So, as far as I can tell, there's no problems on our end, unfortunately. So, and I don't think I can troubleshoot your internet speed, other than saying maybe reboot. Right? It's always with the Windows. It's one of my favorite lines, and I don't know if you guys saw the clip I put in the newsletter yesterday, but the IT Crowd is a great show. But they talk about, have you tried turning it off and on again? Right? It's such a running joke with Windows, but it often does fix things. Actually, I have an interesting question for you. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and he was helping a friend troubleshoot, and we just got on the subject of where the program had told him to install something and he rebooted, and I'm like, I almost never, even though it'll say when you install something, it says, okay, now you have to reboot, I always hit no, don't reboot now. And I'd say at least 90-95% of the time it's fine, right? Everything works as you'd want it to. There are some things that do need certain drivers installed in order for them to work, and they had to have been there at load time. But for the most part, I don't ever, I try just saying no, let me go try it without rebooting, and almost always it works great. I'm curious if you guys have that same experience. And I don't actually have my email open usually, by the way, during the live chat, so I can focus. And has anybody here, someone asked a question on my channel about automating stuff in Google Drive, and I'm pretty sure they have an API, right? Let me see here. Let me go to my folder, and I'll share my screen just so you guys can see what I'm doing. If I can find, that's the wrong window. Mage, I'm reading your post. Dylan DeRosa is a friend / client of mine, and that sounds like the program that I helped him automate it, and we used the ACC library, and it was, you know, I hadn't played with the ACC library a lot, but we were able to automate it very reliably. He was very happy with what we had done. Let me ask him, I'll ping him and ask him if that was the program. It sounds vaguely familiar, or maybe I can just search for that text in my files. By the way, what do you guys use for searching for text within files? I use grepwin, which is awesome. So I'm going to search under my B drive, which is just everything Autohotkey, and just search for that. And I'm going to search for, we'll just search for the first word. That's pretty darn unique. Oh, I never finished sharing my screen here, sorry. So I found that. I'm going to share this weird screen, not weird, but it's not the one I normally share. Oh, I need to close Outlook for, there we go. Okay, so now there's this screen, which means I gotta move that. So this is grepwin. If you don't use it, it's a free program. I'm searching all of my B drive, you know, for that word, and only for Autohotkey files, excluding the HK backup folder, because otherwise it would find it multiple times. But it didn't find that anywhere. So unfortunately, let's see if I can put just the second word in there, because I think we had that in the title or something in the thing I did with Dylan. I can ping Dylan as well, but yeah, it worked. What we did worked well. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Oh, look at that. Oh, and look, it even says Dylan. I was correct apparently. Let's take a look. That's funny. It's very fortunate I threw back in the second part of the name. So this is an example of what we did, Mage. I'm sure I probably have your email somewhere, but I don't know what it is. If you want to shoot me an email, I mean, if you want this code, I don't know. I don't honestly even remember what it does. But what we did, so this is a while ago that we worked on it. We connected to it. We got the coordinates of something, and then we used the coordinates to move the mouse and click it. So that was how we solved. Now, again, that's not ideal. I'd still say the UI automation approach is probably, you know, going to have a programmatic way to do it instead of, but this programmatically got the location of where it was, and which was awesome, because no matter where it was and how the resolution was and anything, it made it programmatic where it would move the mouse to that spot and send the click. So it was a simple, you know, overall simple solution once we worked through it. But he was very happy, because before he was, I forget how he was doing it, but it wasn't great. And so we just jumped on the call and kind of worked through it. So yeah, that was, we found that. Close that. And then there was something else I was going to show before that came up. OBS Studio looks good. I'm not sure what you mean by that. You mean... anyway. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with using Windows to search. What I've found, though, is it's not always clear what files Windows is searching. And even with Isaias, we were doing some stuff and turning on and off different things, and it wasn't always working. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, I'd still say... well, the ACC... now... The ACC one has that path, that, you know, dot notation path to a given element, but with the work Descolada did, he has something that has something similar, right? Which does, to some degree, simplify it. The problem is, it's not always clear what window you're working with, you know, how to get that path. Yeah, I saw Linz go. I saw your thing about closing everything else before. Yeah, I think that is especially on the install. It's just so something else doesn't crash during the install. But yeah, nowadays my computer, it's very rare where I have a blue screen of death, or, you know, it just locks up. Very, very rare. Has anyone else got anything they're working on? Anyone stuck on anything? If you guys are, you know, I know we're not. The last script was OBS 64.
I have a question about the UIA library.
Sure.
So, do you know if it's possible to send keystrokes with it? I know you can do mouse clicks and maybe change like element focuses and stuff, but how about keystrokes?
I I haven't done it, so I can't. But I remember on the call with Descolada, we talked about it. So I do believe there is a way, but I think after, and unfortunately, Zayas isn't available right now, but I remember talking to him after, and I think it was you get the focus. Maybe you're correct. You get the focus, and then you use AutoHotkey to just send the keystrokes, but it's still pretty reliable since you programmatically got the focus onto the thing that needs the keystrokes. And I think Raphidium kind of works the same way. I think Irfan he was in here earlier. I don't see him now, but he's the developer that created Raphidium. And I know Raphidium, if you were automating a web browser, has a thing for sending keystrokes, but I think it also works in a similar way. The thing with the UIA and ACC, often, not always, but often, it's like you can do the default action, right? Like you can say click, or whatever, or enter, or you get the value, read a value, but sending text, unfortunately, it's not like COM in the sense that you have really a lot of control.
Yeah.
What program are you automating? Just curious.
Well, I'm actually automating an RPA tool. It's UiPath Studio. Maybe you heard of it.
That's hilarious. I remember this is 4 or 5 years ago. We were on a call with Tank, and he's Charlie Simmons from the Auto Hotkey forum, right? He's the one that admin runs the forum, and this
Hmm.
is what he does for a living, right? And he was using Automation Anywhere, and he was showing us an intro of like, here's how you automate a browser with Automation Anywhere, and it was so insane. I'm like, I would write an AutoHotkey script to automate a bunch of what he had to do within the tool because I'm like, oh my god, this is ludicrous, the amount of stuff you had to do. I don't know if it's come forward since that day, but yeah, it's I find it very ironic when you're automating, especially automating something that costs a lot of money, with a free tool, right? That is also an automation tool.
Yeah. With UiPath Studio, it's just a sad reality that even these days it's pretty sluggish in many occasions. Like the UI is actually slowing you down as a developer.
Right. Right.
And with AutoHotkey, you can basically skip
Yeah.
over some of those hurdles.
Yeah, well, and the way I always view it is when you use a tool like that, almost any tool that's a GUI tool where you're using it to automate, it's automation with training wheels, right? It makes it where anyone, almost anyone, someone who has a clue what they're trying to do, can, because of course in the background the GUI thing is writing the code, right? What Tank had said at the time was like you can't just say, hey, let me just write the code for this instead of using the GUI to create the code. So he was always hamstrung and annoyed that some things he's like, I know the code for this, especially with AutoHotkey, it's one line, I can do it in a second. But in
Yeah.
order to do it within there, it's click, 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 and then like you said, who knows how effective it is. But no one wants to learn how to program anymore, and well, the other thing which I don't fully believe ever, almost never works out. People, the approach is, hey, we'll hire us. Our developers will come in. We'll create the tools, and you pay us, $2,000 a day for while that developer's there and all this stuff, and then we're going to hand it off to an employee, and then they can maintain it. But even with a lot of training, just the people that are an average person isn't cut out for being able to go back and update, maybe make a slight tweak, but it takes a mindset, to be able to go in and really do stuff. But they're probably not creating new stuff.
Hmm. That's right.
Yeah. Anything else? Anyone else got any other things they're working on? And T, I'm curious. Are you are you doing stuff for a client in the sense of, so you can't like use AutoHotkey actually on the thing that you're gonna automate.
Yeah, basically they are RPA vendor that uses UiPath to serve their own customers. So that's what I'm bought with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not going to knock, some of these other things. They got some really cool. So AutoHotkey also, when you study the RPA spectrum, right? There's the far left side of things, which is really, man, what in the world is it called? It's where you have very clear data, very concise. It doesn't take a lot of interpretation or whatever. And then there's the other extreme where you need to have AI or really really advanced programming to solve what you're doing, and that's where some of these other tools have some really great AI built into them. Versus with AutoHotkey, of course, you can still use an API to connect to a tool that's got it, or someone can create a crazy library. But yeah, hey Matthew.
Hey, Joe. Sorry for the jumping in here late. I'm just kind of bouncing all over the place.
Oh, you're fired. No, yeah. You working on anything? You got anything to?
Yeah, I figured that there would be more people in this call. I was just going to kind of actively or passively listen in, but I can share something with you really quick, and we could continue this on the next call if we need to as well. Let me see what I've named this.
And real quickly, I don't know if you saw my reply on your LinkedIn post. I think about sending, which I thought was awesome. Right, it was you, right? That was
yeah. It's just my rookie response to.
No, we're all we all have different, and it depends what you're doing, right? But for everyone else, he has a, I don't know, was it triggered by a hotkey or a hot string? I don't remember.
It's a hot string, and I can actually pull that up real quick if it's helpful. So yeah, sure.
And it was awesome that which I'm sure anyone on LinkedIn is used to getting these crazy long. They say I want to connect to you, and then you're like, okay, yeah, I'll connect, and then you get an 8-paragraph thing of like, what my business can do for you. It's such a terrible approach. Like, they should just ask you a short question. How you doing? Right? Like, I mean, it's ludicrous.
Right. Yeah. So here's my little screenshot and the on the LinkedIn AutoHotkey programming page or group. So yeah, I just if when active, so if my Chrome browser is open and I'm in the messaging window, I get the messages all the time. Hey, we want to sell you this, or we want to offer our services to your company, or whatever. And it's just like, I usually just ignore it the first time, but then it's like, sometimes it's like every day they're sending me a new message, and I'm like,
right.
Look, I don't have time to like give them an actual response. But then sometimes too, I don't want to lose context of my LinkedIn because, hey, we might have something to share with each other, but I really just don't have the time to reply to everybody that wants to sell me something. And quite honestly, don't want to buy what you're selling. So I wrote this quick little hot string. So if I type in SMSG, I could probably shorten that up. Like, since it is when active, I could probably just say, right. MSG or SM, or say it's sales message abbreviation. My little abbreviation, so it's sales message.
Yeah. And what's awesome is it's whatever makes sense to you, right? This is what I always try to tell people.
Yeah.
It's what makes sense to you. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah. It could be like one, enter,
right,
if I wanted to. And honestly, that would probably work just fine, because it's only going to happen when my LinkedIn right. Messaging window or page is open inside of my Chrome browser. So it's very unique situation. So it's not going to happen all the time. So yeah, when this is running, if I type in SMSG asterisk, and that's a little pointer that you had given on one of your talks in the past, Joe. I think you used a period. So some way to like kind of differentiate what's a hot string versus, another acronym, so like you say BRB, maybe you actually want to say BRB, but if you say BRB asterisk or BRB period, right. It'll be right back. So yeah, SMSG asterisk will type out, and I'll just go ahead and, show that example here. Well, maybe I will. What did I call this thing? LinkedIn sales reply.
Yeah, and all I had said was, this was one is just the idea is awesome, right? Yeah. I have one that's sort of the inverse of that. it's and actually maybe people even here have received it from me. I will write people that it says like, hey, I see you work with AutoHotkey. You know, I love connecting to people that work with AutoHotkey. You know, please add me
Mhm.
to your connections, right? Because
Right.
I do try to add people like that to my connections. But yeah, it's very handy. But all I was suggested is to change it to a copy to your clipboard and paste it, as
Mhm.
opposed to sending the keystrokes, just because it can be a little slow, depending on how long your message. And I'm not talking about your message in specific here. When you have a longer message, right, you're literally sending each one of those keys, and
Mhm.
so when you can just copy it to first, back up your clipboard, copy it to the clipboard, send the paste, put a sleep of like 100 milliseconds, and then restore your clipboard to the original content, and
Yeah.
it's just awesome. It's so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes I just like to write things just to see if I can write them. Uh, but
Which
yeah,
is really good. Yeah, good to
that
do.
was SMSG asterisk, and then it will type out, hello, thanks for reaching out, connecting. I'm always happy to make new connections on LinkedIn. Although I find sales message a bit intrusive, drain my valuable time. So I'm delighted to stay connected, but any more sales messages will unfortunately result in me blocking you. And it's actually been really well received. Most of the people are like, okay, well, I understand. Thanks for being honest. And, so anyways, it's just, it, cuts a lot of, I don't have to just go. It's quicker than blocking somebody, actually. So, um, it works pretty well. Just little things like that can make your life so much easier with AutoHotkey.
Years ago, because I have over 16,000 people as a first level connection on LinkedIn, and it was because I had automated the connection process, and it was mostly with people who work with AutoHotkey, or people that I know. But yeah, it was a lot of fun at the time, and now I like you said, I add people, but it's just ridiculous, the message, which is the other crazy thing. People that work in sales should be doing this all the time, right? You could easily do a mail merge with the person's email address, with the industry they're in. But again, don't pipe in 8 million things. Ask a question, right? Just ask a short question about how things are going, and
Sure.
start a conversation first.
Yeah. I had actually come across a Udemy tutorial. I like Udemy. I've done, I think, almost all your courses on Udemy. Um, but I'm a BIM manager, and so one of the programs I work with a lot is Revit. And people have always asked me, hey, how do you do that? Well, they think, oh, well, that may, they just automatically think, oh, that's some sort of esoteric BIM stuff. You guys are always getting into programming and stuff, so that's like something you do. I'm like, no, man, this is universal. Like I don't care if you're an accountant or if you're a project manager, or whatever it is you do. If you work in Excel, if you type documents all day. I've got a friend who works for a mortgage company, and he has to go through and make sure that all of the contract documents have the right verbiage and stuff like this. I'm like, dude, you really need to learn how to use AutoHotkey. I mean, there's so many. I can't think of. If you use Windows, you should be using AutoHotkey.
And actually, in particular here, hotstrings, right? It's what I always tell people. And what's amazing is how many people that work with AutoHotkey don't use hotstrings.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the more of a programmer you are, the less likely you are to use hotstrings. And I'm like, it's the lowest hanging fruit. It's thing, like you said, we all type the same things over and over. Yet I don't understand how people don't get that connection and go, you know what? I should have a lot of my paths to folders I use all the time, to email addresses, to standard meetings or replies to my wife, or I mean, there's so many things that we write over and over and over.
So with that being said, one of the things that I've always kind of asked myself and been wondering with some of the people on the call is, I know that a lot of people that we have on the calls are, especially like Isaiah's, they program, right? They work with JavaScript, they work with other languages. So if you work with Python, if you work with JavaScript, you work with C, whatever, you're going to be typing the same lines of code all the time. You could write a hot string for that if you wanted to.
Right.
I use it for my PowerShell commands. Here at the company I work for, I cannot change my PowerShell profile for my aliases because I don't have admin rights to my computer. But they did, thankfully, admin IT did install Autohotkey for me, and they were fine with that. And so now I can't use my aliases. So if I type in a certain program, I can't make it go to that program immediately inside of my PowerShell profile because I can't edit that PowerShell profile, but I can write hotstrings to do whatever in the blink of an eye. I mean, you can see the text coming across the screen, but it's just as easy as like I'll use like FAR manager for doing things inside of my command prompt. So if I want to use FAR, it will open it up. But it's so it's really what I would do is I would say, inside of my profile, when I type in FAR, go to this path and hit open this executable. But since I can't do that, I can simply just tell it, when I type FAR, CD into this path and then execute this program. And sure, you can see the text come across the screen. It's a little hacky or whatever, but hey, it works just as fast.
And it's highly reliable when it's on your own computer. Like, things that work often like this work just fine.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of is, anytime you switch over to like image search stuff, that's where going across computers and multiple stuff much more difficult. But hot strings, sending tabs stuff, those actually work pretty. I don't love them, but boy, it works very reliably.
Yeah,
and that's where I use QAP to put in 8 million snippets, for whatever programming language I'm in, and it's just so easy because then you can move them around very easily, right? It's one of my favorite things to do.
So I was going to bring this up. We had discussed either last week or the week before. I had spoken with you about, let me see if I can find this. Oh, here we go. Perfect. And we had talked about this interface that I wanted to create based on this diagram. And so I did. I started on creating this program, just at the front end for it. And I don't have anything like linked to these buttons yet. So that's my next step. And that was where I was going. Going to see if I could get some help from you all on just kind of as a refresher. What we had talked about was, we have all these different projects that we're working on with different clients. And so I want the people at our company to be able to just go in and, depending on the project, sometimes the client mandates certain types of data repository, document management platforms to be used. And sometimes they don't care, so we'll use in-house stuff. But a lot of the times it's very project specific. And so first thing the person gets that happens when a person comes onto a project is they say, well, where is all of my drawings? Where are all of my process flow diagrams? Where's the contract documents so I can know the scope for the project? So we would have all of these buckets. Our contract documents would be in a planning bucket, and whether that's on a cloud-based environment or whether that's just simply on a folder on the server, it could change from project to project. So I'd like to be able to say, hey, if you're on this project and you hit planning, you want to go into find the contract documents, then you just simply select your project and then hit planning. And depending on the project that is selected, it may take you to a cloud environment. It may take you to OneDrive, may take you to Box, may take you to Dropbox, or it may take you to a file server on or a folder on our file server.
Yeah, and Matthew, so the one thing, and this is where, I think it's a good one for us to actually have a call, off.
Sure, absolutely.
But when I've done stuff, which I think this kind of stuff, right, is, hey, when you're doing stuff from let's start simple, your computer, doing what you described is super easy because one of those paths is always the same for your computer and you, right?
Yeah, it's just a link, right?
Yeah. But the second you say, okay, I'm going to give this to Bob, now, depending on what those things are linked to, like for everyone's OneDrive, they're like I haven't done enough in OneDrive to know is maybe there's a way to get a URL to the file that would be the same for everybody. Right?
It would, yes.
Okay. But but for the local folders and files, right? Then do they have the network drive mapped in the same way? If that's what's going on, I mean, it just becomes not problematic. It's just something you got to plan on, right? And
exactly.
In your head, understand how am I going to make this independent for everyone else accessing this.
Yeah, and we have projects right now. We have one particular project that we're working on. I wouldn't even dare mention the client's name because it is so secure that we are not even allowed to work on our computers. The computers that we're working on are actually sitting on site, and outside of us having access to them through a remote desktop, those computers have no access to the internet.
Yeah.
And so, in a case like that, I would simply have um, a pop-up a message box, saying, okay, this particular project, you're going to need to access this computer and go in and access this file path.
Those you probably couldn't do this, but it is one thing which you see like over my head, right? Is if you're in a place where you can't automatically give people the actual hyperlink, making it a pretty link instead can help, when people see it. But it sounds like you'd actually be able to give them the text for it and stuff, right? That where if they wanted to click it or copy it, but
yeah, that's kind of like, even though it's very iffy or whether we should or should be doing that, it's really the only way we could communicate with one another is through Teams. And I'm like, hey, I'm looking for this file that's on that server. They'll send me the path. And, of course, it's not going to take me anywhere. I just copy it and put it into that remote desktop.
The other really big aha that I had a couple years ago was, hey, I should never give out an actual URL to something. Like when I put URLs in my software to go, hey, watch this video, or hey, here's where you get the code, they should always be like the thing over my head, a pretty link that I can go to my server and point to a different location later on. And I don't have to worry that, like, now, crap, I got to go update all these programs everywhere, right? Like,
exactly.
It's on the server, and the server does the redirect for me. And therefore, if the video gets outdated or I have a different upload or whatever, it makes it so much simpler to just update that, refer, and then updating the software for everybody and have to deal with it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's just something I also try to teach people about our document management system that we use. Regardless of what platform we're using, we always need to try to send people, like you said, like a pretty link, so to speak, because we, on the back end, we may update that document a couple times before they even bother opening the file. So it's in a controlled environment, and it allows that to stay static, and it also allows that to stay secure.
And if it matters, let me show you here. So,
sorry, I'll go ahead. Quit sharing.
There we go. No, you're fine. I was going to, because I'll show you. I'll use the URL over my head here. So this should update. There we go. So with the tool I use, you can pass parameters into it. And so here I just added the SRC, and it doesn't matter what these are, right? But these are key value pairs. So SRC equals YT in this case for YouTube. So if I give this, like on this channel, and someone clicks it, I know they came from YouTube. But if I was streaming to LinkedIn, I would put a different URL in there. But same URL with different parameters. The YT would probably be an LM, right? And so if you had different tools you were giving to people, or you wanted to track even, if you had a way to have their user ID or whatever, right? You could do stuff like that to keep track of who's doing what. A simple way that it doesn't mess with where they're going, but it gives you some more information about what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's super easy. It just, you have to make sure that whatever tool you're using allows you to get them also, because I can go to my clicks and see. Now I'm going to post the same video to LinkedIn, to Facebook, to Reddit, and wherever. I can see where I'm getting traffic from just by that, instead of creating 5 different links, right, which takes time. This, I'm just changing a couple of letters at the end. Mention how bad Star Trek is, please. That's funny. Yeah, I tried watching Picard, and I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, does anyone else have anything they're working on? Any questions? Anything? So let me finish. I think I was on a story about Stream Deck, and we were helping a client, and it was really interesting. So we haven't released it yet, but let me see. Oh, what was the pretty link? Yeah. What? Oh, we haven't even created that yet. We've created the download, but we haven't created the pretty link, even though it's in the video we made, which is another fun thing you can do. You can actually do all that stuff without having it yet. Anyway, we were working with a client, and we were trying to connect Stream Deck to his day trading software. And even though Isaias was right-clicking on it and saying "Run as admin," in the Windows 10 taskbar, it couldn't connect to the day trading software. And finally, after like 2 hours, I finally said, "Hey, why don't you?" I said, "This is stupid. This is usually when I'm helping Isaias instead of the other way around. I'm like, this is a stupid idea, but just try it. Let's go and create a shortcut to the Stream Deck software, and then go into the properties and say run as admin." And we ran it that way, and then everything worked, right? So for whatever reason, which makes no sense, Stream Deck wasn't getting launched as an admin, even though we were telling it to run as an admin. So the question came up of like, well, how can you tell if a program is being run as an admin, right? How can we easily say, hey, the reason why my keystrokes aren't getting to this program is because it's run as an admin. I need to, so the simple thing is just, well, let me just elevate my program, right? But we actually wrote a tool that will show you all of the programs that are running as an admin, and that way you can look at it and go, oh, like I know, programmatically I know this one is, and the one, my Autohotkey script, is running or not. So it's a simple way to detect that. Like I said, we haven't shared it yet, but it'll be out in a couple of days, I think.
Oh, that sounds really useful.
When you get stuck on something simple, of just some people, I'm just trying to send damn keystrokes. Someone wrote a question in the other day about they were using Firefox and everything worked great before, and then I think they updated Firefox, and then suddenly it couldn't receive keystrokes. And that's my first thought is always, well, either disable UAC temporarily, or run your other script as an admin, or both, and just see if that fixes it. But maybe Firefox was running as an admin.
I see. Well, if we have time, one other general question that I have for you is regarding the eight. What's the library? The UA, is it UAC library? No.
The UIA?
For the graphical user interface, the old graphical user interface library that's not being actively used by Windows anymore. It's kind of.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Unfortunately.
Okay. Let me backtrack a little bit. Let me look it up. If we got time, I'll bring it back up.
I saw Linsko ask, how do you pin something? I mean, when the thing is on the taskbar, I right-click it and say pin to taskbar. If that's not an option for you, then are you using a work computer? Because sometimes if you're not an admin, maybe they don't let you do that, which is stupid. Or you would have to go to, and ironically, I can't pull mine up. You could go to your taskbar settings and see if there's an option. I don't know if that's an option that you could disable from there, but that could be something that you can just disable entirely. Let me share my screen real quickly. Number 3. So when something's running, I can right-click it and just say pin to taskbar, right? So that's what I would. That's the simple way that I would do that. See, there's my 16,000 connections. Hourly beep script. Yeah, you can just use a set timer for that, Garrett. Set timer with a sound play or play sound. I forget what it is on hotkey, but you can easily play sounds. Oh, start menu. Sorry. Well, after I don't use the typical start menu, but I think even there, once you get something there, oh yeah, look, I can right click there and say pin taskbar. Never mind. Maybe if you just drag it, it would stay. I would just go and build your start menu the way you want it, which is what I do. Like with my utilities, these are things I've created my own menu and submenu. Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm addressing now. This is your start menu. But as I said, my start menu is not what most people use as a start menu. Um, I just disable a lot of the stuff, so it works pretty much the way like XP or Windows 7 really works, but it's still this overall same.
ACC library is what I was referring to.
Okay. And what was your question about it, Matthew?
What's the successor to the ACC library?
The UIA.
UIA. Okay.
Yeah, from a long time ago too. And it's been around for a really long time, so it's not like it's a new thing. Yeah, the ACC is deprecated for quite a while, but it's still in use. And most even newer programs allow you. Now there's been a couple where I will try to use it and it can't peek into them, but the UIA tool can. But if you have an older program, chances are it probably can still use the UIA, which is awesome because then you have like one approach. But yeah. Yeah, I disabled a bunch of that stuff. I was wondering, starting at 55-second checks. I was wondering, starting at 55-second check, it sets till 55 minutes and then starts a timer every second. Starts a timer every second till 00 minutes. Yeah, I got lost in your... Garrett, if you want to share the code or something, maybe, but I'm getting lost on what you're, why you're setting a short, so short of a time period and this and that. The other one that you might look at is we had how to avoid a long sleep. I think it's like the name of the video. Am I still sharing my screen? No, apparently not. But yeah, if looking for many people might want to even for a future video. Well, I mean, you can have things set to run at startup, but you can't. The computer has to load. You can have it set to start on load, but you can't have it run before you're logged in because, as far as I'm aware, everything is under your profile. But I don't understand why you have the second one if you want it done every hour. So let's let me see if I can find the just because it is a fun and interesting topic. Yeah. So this video is a way to avoid a long sleep. I put it in the YouTube chat. Let me grab it back over to here. Which of course there's no chat. It's alright, Irfan, I didn't see your chat here. It's so hard to watch two chats. One program I simply used Discord bot URL to get tracking data using simple com. Was Irfan, were you answering Matthew's question? Maybe is that why you wrote UI automation question mark? Probably, I'm gonna guess. Yeah.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And thanks, by the way. That's very helpful.
Yeah, it's an amazing library now that it's updated, because before there was no like real discovery tool, and we had started working on it and never got back to it because I actually had tried to hire someone to create a macro tool based on it, but I don't think they've started yet. But it's unfortunate that in every program, not every program, but there's different types of programs where sometimes it's super easy and sometimes it's a little more painful. So writing a tool that will make it easy is much more complicated. But what I love about it is basically now you have one tool to learn how to use stuff, and then once you learn that, you can automate a ton of I can't say every program, but a ton of programs. But I don't understand why you'd have more than two and more than one in the first place. Yeah, there's no, Garrett, there's no problem having more than one set timer. Just if you have them all in one script, increase the number of threads or threads per hotkey or whatever it is. Otherwise, they'll get stuck in. But which is also why that avoiding a long sleep. That's why we wrote it the way we did, because when you use just a long sleep, it makes it uninterruptible, so your hotkeys wouldn't work for an hour, which I don't think is what you want. Or you just use the built-in task manager. No, not task scheduler. Right, is how you can do something like that as well. All right, 4 minutes left. Anyone got anything else they're working on? I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean by worry about resources. I don't worry. Honestly, I don't worry about resources on anything I'm doing with Autohotkey. So, when you say worry about resources, are you meaning taking up space? I'm not quite understanding. How that's implied there. What you're. And for the most part, Autohotkey is, even though we talk about it, it's a overall pretty efficient language. I wouldn't use it for doing millions of things per minute, but yeah, it's pretty awesome. No, yeah, they're nothing to worry about. Autohotkey is so low in memory usage overall. I mean, with the amount of RAM we have these days on computers, it's crazy. And the amount of resources it takes to have some sort of a set timer or whatever is nothing. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Set timers especially compared to like a long sleep, which even the sleep's not taking any resources. Alrighty, well, thanks everyone. It's a quiet day. I don't know if it had to do with Isaiah. He was, like I said, he's working on his electrical stuff today. Thankfully, after this, he'll have a battery backup, and so when power's out, he doesn't have to worry about it. If you're a hero, our hero hour will start here in a moment. I'm gonna run outside for a moment, and but that's that. Thanks all for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed HKCon. If not, the videos are on YouTube. It was a good 8 hours of chatting. I know a lot of you guys were there, but thank you, and we'll see you soon. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Cheers.